Hello, friends, and welcome back to the Popcast. Whenever you're listening to this, whether it be live or a VOD, Twitch or YouTube, or Spotify, while you're waiting for the ads to end before you can start your match, explaining how Clan Blitz works to a Smash casual that's just passing by, not caring about being purged from +3 because you know you'll just be voted back in next month. So what's really the difference here? Whatever it is that you're doing right now, appreciate you taking the time out of your day to listen to this. Unless I don't. Hey, purge goes in, purge goes out. Does anyone really care anymore? I mean, yeah, if you were one of the people that got purged from the Plus server, obviously you care, but we've seen these happen before, and it just, those people just get right back in the next month. So, okay. I mean, I'm not somebody who actually cares or strives to be in the Plus server, so I'm not going to really comment on it. The only thing I care about is, are they playing with someone banned from Splat Safety in a VC playing Mario Kart with them, or are they being wildly inappropriate and embarrassing our entire competitive community? As long as the Plus servers aren't doing those things, I really don't care what they do. If it's a purge month, go, so be it. News of tournaments that may be of interest to the casual listener of the podcast. 20XX is this weekend. This is a big deal. This is the first major tournament, online major tournament. What's your definition of a major? I don't know, but it is a tournament you should be playing in, and if not, it's a tournament you'll want to watch. Let's say that. I'm trying to get away from using the term, you have to watch these things. No, it's on the production value of a tournament to draw you in and make you interested in watching a tournament. It's not a, everyone has to watch this one thing kind of thing. That's dumb. But I think this is going to be something you will want to watch if you're not playing in it. So whenever there's a low ink, people will always tweet out, why are people watching low ink? Why are 400 people watching grand finals of low ink? They should be watching other stuff. It's like, okay, cool. But whenever somebody tweets that out, people are always responding with that. Well, it's got all these storylines, and there's this podcast that is previewing and recapping the tournament every single month and giving a lot of information about it. So here's what I'm going to do. This Friday, I'm going to preview 20XX just like I would for a low ink tournament. I'll run through the teams because there's a lot of really good storylines that are going on in this 20XX of a lot of brand new top level teams that are going to be playing in it. So we'll preview it just like we normally will. And then on Monday, I'll do a deep dive recap of the tournament, every single team, what notable results happened across the entire tournament. And we will do we'll do it just like it's low ink. So there you go. Somebody's going to be previewing and recapping a tournament just like it's a low level one. So we'll see how that goes. And it's a Dapple Productions thing. It's not an IPL. Wow. You guys can't. I'm going to be covering a top level event, and it's not related to IPL. Ooh. Can't wait to see how you guys find a way to turn that against me. If you are not, if you are playing in that and you're still low ink eligible, make sure you sign up for low ink next weekend, or sign up for low ink now, but make sure you play in next weekend. And you want to sign up early because there's this new rule we have where you have to sign up with your IGN being your splash tag. So not your like current IGN that is in the game, but what your actual physical splash tag is. We're making you sign up with that. So if you signed up for low ink, which 41 teams have done so already, and we still got 2 weeks to go. So this is going to be a monster low ink. I hope it's not big enough to where we got to do 4 Swiss groups again. If it is, we'll come up with something. I don't know. But if you've signed up for this low ink already, I guarantee you've done it wrong. And we're not going to hold your we are going to hold your hand as much as we can. But once registration closes and you haven't signed up properly, you're going to be watching the tournament, not playing in it. So make sure you've done it correctly. And we're going to start pinging people maybe tomorrow that have done it incorrectly just to give them the heads up that they need to get it fixed. Sign up for low ink. Today, we are going to be recapping the Big House, the LAN that took place in Detroit, Michigan, concluding. Why do I have 2 IPL pins? Okay. We're also going to be talking with Rays, one of the head TOs for this event, who I believe flew out at 3 a.m., if I heard that correctly. So who knows what level of cognitive ability we're going to be getting out of Rays for this one. But it's good. This is so I got my checklist, all the Splatland TOs. We've had K-Bot on, we've had Magic on, RZA, now Rays. Now we got to find a way to get Kraken and Siren on, and we'll have I'll have all the Infinity Stones on the Popcast at some point. But first, the natural thing to do is to compare this LAN to all the others that we've had this year. We've had 4 LANs this year. 4! That's a lot. And it's great that we've had all of these LANs. Is it fair to compare them all to each other, considering they all have subtle differences? Who's going, what teams are going to be playing, who's hosting it, what channel is the production on, what city is it in? Probably not, because they all have their pros and cons. But the one thing that makes this LAN unique, or one of the things that makes this LAN unique from all the other 3 that we've had so far this year in North America, yes, Europe, I know you've had a lot of stuff. I haven't found out about them until they actually get going, is the fact that this is I guess it's fair to say, an urban LAN where all the other 3 have been more rural. Don't know what you classify Shine. It's a little bit mix of both. At Riptide and Low Tide City, you could drive your car, you could park there, and you could stay at the venue. Everything you would need is at the venue. Food, if you're crazy and you want to buy all that stuff. Entertainment in the water park and arcade and your venue, your hotel, the gaming hall, it's all right there. And if you want to leave, you can just hop in your car and drive and park at some other restaurant. It's a rural kind of thing, or it's not a big city kind of thing. With the Big House comes everything being a little bit bigger. It is in the heart of Detroit, a big downtown area. And I'm here to say this. There was a lot of talk going into this, especially for us Splatoon folks that probably haven't been to a Big House before. Detroit, that's a rough city. It's not safe. Make sure you're carrying mace and traveling in packs of 20, and everybody's walking in a way that we can see all the cardinal directions going on here. I'm here to say this. Detroit was absolutely lovely, and all of the preconceived notions about how unsafe Detroit was, in my opinion, was overblown. it seemed just as safe and slash unsafe as every other downtown city area I've been in across this entire nation. No, you didn't just walk down the street and there was somebody with a gun taking your money at every single block. That didn't happen. It was absolutely lovely. You could walk. There were so many great things by the venue that were in walking distance, very easy walking distance. And if there wasn't something you didn't feel like walking, there was an Uber that would take you there in just like a couple of minutes. Like everything you needed was right there in the heart of the that downtown area that we're in. Now, I'm not sitting here saying like I understand that I'm saying this as a male that I feel a little bit safer, and if you are a non-male, you probably don't feel safe walking down any street in America by yourself. I totally understand that. And when I'm walking with my wife, even though I feel safe, when I'm in a city, I'm still having in the back of my mind of like, okay, who's behind us? And whenever we're like stopped at a like a crosswalk waiting for our turn to cross and there's somebody else with us, I will kind of just like naturally open up just to make sure the person that's with us recognizes that I see them and that I'm like, just not that I'm making eye contact with them, but I'm at least making myself aware. Like, hey, I'm aware of everybody that's around me, but that's every city in America. This notion that Detroit was this crazy rough town, it didn't live up to that at all. It was a lovely city. We went to Buddy's Pizza. That was amazing. I don't want to rank like all the pizza. This isn't a food review podcast, but that Detroit style pizza, the whole box thing with a little bit of deep dishness to it, that was perfect. We went to with the gravy train. We went to, I believe it was Checkers Bar is where we went to. That wasn't too bad. There was like a 7-ish minute walk from the venue. Not too bad at all. That was a great place to go to. Where did we go? With the Purdue crew, we went to, I don't know where we ended up. We ended up in some sort of New York style pizza place. I forget the name of it. And I didn't eat anything there because I'd already eaten that day. I wasn't the only one who did this or noticed this, but when we were at that pizza place, we realized, if it's a group of 6 or plus or whatever, there's a 20% gratuity added on, and they only did like one check. They couldn't do separate checks. And I was like, oh, that's kind of unique. But other people were tweeting out how they were having this experience at like every restaurant in the city. So like I've never heard of that before. I don't know if it's just like a city code kind of thing or what, or if they just all collaborated together. This is how we're going to do our checks for multiple groups. But that was weird, but we ended up making it work. But I just saw other people talking about that too, and I was like, okay, it wasn't just us that one individual restaurant that was like that. I mean, if you can't drive, we parked our car. Our hotel had a parking lot. We were able to just park our car, but you don't need to drive. Really, everything you need's right there within walking distance. It was fine. So I just want to put that out there, that if people are like, man, I want to go to the big house, but Detroit is really unsafe. Other people might have had a different experience than me, and I understand people have different experiences from me because they're different from me. I can say from my perspective, Detroit was lovely, absolutely lovely. And I wouldn't mind going back again just to vacation, just to check out some other things in the city that we weren't able to see. Not going across the bridge to Canada, though. Not about that. So the actual venue itself, there's some things we'll talk about with Ray specifically, and I'll save the conversation until that. But just to give you kind of an idea, if you've been to some other lands before, the setups just reflect the number of teams that play in the event. However many teams you have sign up and how many stations you need is how many stations you got. There at the big house, there were 4. 3 stations and then a 4th station that had tablecloths on it to identify it as the stream station. There was no stage. There was no, I think at Riptide, there were 6 stations plus a stream set up with a stage, plus 2 friendly stations, or like 1 friendly station and 1 like, here's all the equipment we have left, do whatever you can do with it here, we don't care kind of station. So this one obviously smaller, but again, there's less people signed up for this event than there was for Riptide. You don't need that many stations. It had to be a little bit smaller. But as you're sitting there just kind of looking at everything, and this is a super major. This is a Smash super major, and this is basically the same setup that we had at Genesis 7 minus the giant stage area that we have, but everything's just thrown together into one bonkers sized conference or like a venue space. What am I thinking of? Convention space. The Artist Alley, Melee, Ultimate Concessions, a game library, a board game library. There was like a retro gaming station. There was the arcade, there was stage, like a massive stage setup. Like there's a lot of stuff going on there. I would say at any point you could assume there'd be a couple thousand people in that one room. And that was just half the size. If anybody was there, that curtain that was blocking off everything, that is twice the size that is still available behind that curtain. So that was just half the size of that room that we were in. So, but in your mind, you're always thinking like, okay, well, what if more people in Splatoon showed up? Like, do you add an extra station? Where are they going to go? I don't know. That's not a question for me. But that's just something in the back of my mind is like, how does this get bigger? Like, how does this grow from here? And it's not always like more setups kind of thing. It's an adjustment of a format kind of thing. But there are some issues with that as well. The biggest difference between Big House and literally every other LAN that has been run in Splatoon side so far this year was the production stuff. And normally at a LAN, you just got your production company, level 1. You just sit them down. They're like, hey, look, here's what we need. Can you do it? Yes, we can either accommodate this or we can't. And it's mostly just them interacting with the Splatoon TOs to figure out how this is going to go. I'm sure that now, look, I'm obviously not involved in the Splatoon LAN kind of thing, and there's a lot more that goes into it. Just that. How many times am I going to hit this damn thing with my hat? But that's just the difference here. Is that the production company was pulled in so many different directions here this time around with Big House. Yes, you had the Splatoon TOs that wanted certain things, and there was a lot more additional stuff that was being brought in. The Analyst Desk, the interviews, the pre-show that we did. And so that's coming from the Splatoon TOs. But there's extra rules that the venue itself has with production. And since it's on a BTS channel, not IPL, there's even more additional rules that get put into place that makes this everything more different, I guess you could say. First off, there's some sort of union rule going on where production folks can't do things after a certain time. So like they were getting in there to set up things on Thursday, but at 10 o'clock you have to stop. They could not continue working past 10 o'clock. And it's not a thing where it's like, oh, well, I'm a volunteer, let me just continue working for free. No, that like I can't just touch other people's stuff and put it together kind of thing. So that's like at 10 o'clock things had to stop, which was weird. And there's also this thing where like you can't start at a certain time. So on Saturday, Saturday we were supposed to start the stream at 10 o'clock. And I was supposed to be there. I was going to be there at like 9:30 on Saturday after I stayed up a little too late on Friday night. We were going to do like an analyst desk starting at 10 after the game or the first match. Well, production wasn't allowed to do anything until 11. So there was a tournament set that was played at 10 o'clock that had zero stream to it because the venue union rules said that wasn't allowed. That was different, and that's not something we've really dealt with before. the pre-show is something that was added. This was now I believe the pre-show, the reason, so we did the pre-show at 2:00 on Friday, and I believe the reason we did that is because there needed to be, the stream started at 2:00 or roughly around 2:00 because of like certain content standards that needed to be met by the actual tournament itself. So I was tasked with doing a bit of a pre-show, which was just go on and be me, which I'm good at being me, and I'm fine doing that. And I feel like we did a good job with that. But it was very last minute. We brought in Bowser. It's just like, hey, do you want to do this thing with us? And they were like, yeah. And we went through it. We figured out what we were going to talk about, and that was really cool. The pre-show was really cool. And it was a good way for us to be able to bring in people like players and talk to them, which is something we haven't really done. We've never really done interviews at a LAN. There was one interview I saw, and it was at Shine after Cherry Limeade won, where Krim went on and talked to, I believe, both Austin and Nine. And then it was funny because like as soon as Krim was done talking, they were running out of time, so you just hear Nine go, all right, cool, that's the end of our tournament, bye, and the stream just ends. And I was like, that's weird that the stream would just end like that. Well, I've never seen that. What is going on behind the streams that we don't know that's forcing them to close things down early? Well, that kind of happened. That kind of happened here as well. And I got to see it firsthand. There was a lot of things that happened on Saturday that just caused things to get rushed. So the Analyst Desk was a new thing that was added to this event. So basically, instead of the commentators just talking and talking and talking for 30 minutes between each set, which a lot of us have gotten really good at just stalling for that, it would just cut the commentators and go to an analyst desk where they were either interviewing players that just won the match or having two analysts there with a host. And we do just kind of like you would see on ESPN at the halftime show of an NFL game, where it's just a host asking questions and the analysts breaking down things on a more opinionated level than what the commentators were able to do. And that went over well. I feel like the people, I told Mizuno, who did a fantastic job with the hosting things, I feel like all the analysts did a great job. But a lot of the things that you guys saw, there was a lot of things you guys didn't see because it just got cut last minute. And the reason that is because there were so many ads that had to be run constantly. So, and that comes with the fact that we're not streaming on an IPL channel anymore. We're streaming on BTS. So there's more corporate stuff tied into this. Yes, with IPL, if you watched any stream of the LANs leading up to this that were on IPL, there were ads that were run. There was like the Papa John's ad and whatever else had like a straight segment, like an actual physical commercial that the producers would hit play on. Like you would see that a lot, or a few times. But here, I believe at least 6 minutes of Twitch ads had to be run every hour. So you're thinking the stream lasted from 11 to 10. That's almost, an hour of stream, maybe more. Somebody can do the mental math on that. But there was a lot. It seemed like after every single set ended, we had to cut to ads. And when we weren't doing ads on Twitch, the commentators were plugging all of the sponsors nonstop. I finally got to do the pizza thing, and it came at a perfect time. We were actually allowed to eat the pizza at the venue, and I was freaking starving when it happened. So I just ran through my spiel and just let Falco talk while I just sat there and ate pizza because I was ridiculously hungry at the moment. So I was just like, whatever, I'm just eating this thing. This is great. Level up, whatever. But I mean, like we're constantly reading, hey, before we get this third game started, make sure you order this from this place or whatever. Like that's what a corporate tournament is. I mean, this is a big boy tournament, and that's something we're not used to doing at a Splatoon thing because we're not used to being involved in any kind of things that have money at stake. So that was a big kind of like, oh, okay, this is what an actual sponsored stream is supposed to look like. It's like, okay, like if we want Splatoon to become big time, this is what it's going to be. We need to get better at ad reads. We need to get better at being less cringe, and we need to find more ways to run ads while still getting the content in, because there were so many times on Saturday where we have people in the lobby. First off, it's from my perspective, the whole issues of getting people in the lobby that we had at Riptide was almost non-existent here. Yes, there are always issues that pop up here and there, but the vast majority of the issues that you saw at Riptide non-existent at Big House. We'll confirm that with Ray's later. But there were several times where you had a lot of people on stream. They're all waiting in the lobby. They're doing their warm-ups on the little targets. You got the streamers ready to go. You got the commentators ready to go, or the analyst desk ready to go. But everybody is just sitting there doing nothing because we got to wait for the ads to finish first and just roll through the ads for a whole 6 minutes. It was really something else. I can't imagine. I can't think of any other time where like everybody's ready to go, but we just got to sit and all just wait and stare at each other until the stream is done with all the ads. It's like if you've ever been to an NFL football game and you like watch it live in front of you, and you see everybody in the huddle, both teams on the field in a huddle, but they're not calling a play. They're just sitting around, just swaying back and forth and just doing nothing. That's because there's a commercial going on and they can't play the game till the commercials are done. So they're just bored out of their mind. And then the ref will finally blow the whistle and they're like, okay, here's the play we're going to run. Break, let's go. That's what it was. You're just sitting around watching players just kind of like, can we play yet? Nope, you can't play yet. Sorry, it's going to be another 4 minutes or so. And because of that, so many analysts were like prepping to go on an analyst desk to preview the set that you were going to see. But that just got cut because like we're running out of time. We're not going to do that. We're just going to hop to the commentators and go right into it. We barely got to preview grand finals at all because we all had to be out of the venue by 10 o'clock. And it was like 9:05 and we were still running ads because we had to run ads because of the contract with BTS or whatever. So that was weird. And that's why if you watch the stream back and the grand finals cuts to K-Bot and RZA and they're just like, hey, I'm K-Bot and RZA. We're doing grand finals. Here's game one. They're loading out. What do you think of this comp? Like that's literally how it was. Like as soon as we got the green light, boom, we're hit go on the game. We're playing. We're not wasting any time. And I have no idea what would have happened if Big forced a bracket reset. I've absolutely no idea what would have happened. And it's not, I don't have to worry about it. Obviously, the TOs are probably in the back of their mind like, Starburst, you better 3-0 this, all KOs, and we can get the heck out of here on time. But I mean, me as the person just watching this, like, yeah, I want to see a bracket reset. But the TOs had a lot in stake. The bias goes out the window when there's contracts involved. Come on, Starburst, in this one now. And luckily for everybody, it did end up in a 3-0. But I mean, that's just, again, these are just issues you're not used to having elsewhere, or at least I can't remember seeing elsewhere. And it was just really. It just gave you it was probably eye-opening for everybody to see, like, okay, if Splatoon's going to be a big-time esport, we're going to have to all get better at time management for these things, incorporating ads in a way that makes everything run a little bit more smoother, and still finding time to do the analyst desk, to do the interviews, like to do those extra things the TOs and the production team were able and wanting to do. But like I said on Monday last time, just because things work out on paper doesn't mean they work out in reality. So there was a lot of things to learn right there. But the content that actually got out when the audio wasn't desynced, and that was another issue that just couldn't be fixed. I believe like ISA had to get called for that. It went out great. I think the analyst desk segments were great. I that one segment that me, Austie, and Walkie had, I feel really good about that. And but it was also just like, as we're getting into it, we see the sign that says, wrap it up. We got to roll ads. So it's like, all right, well, we'll be back after this. And it's like, damn it. But a lot of cool things were tried, and it's just kind of eye-opening the differences that being there. Let's stop talking about ads and stuff like that. Let's start talking about the matches themselves, the actual things that were played at the event. And the question is, did this live up to the hype? I don't know. And that's, but let's break down some of the things that we saw. What are some things that we learned from this event? First off, Sayonara is not ready yet. However, there is a lot to be excited about with Sayonara. There's a lot of upside there. Are they the true number 2 team? I don't know. I don't know. We need to see how they played this weekend in 20XX against the EU monsters. But Sayonara has a lot of upside. During the pre-show, we brought in Zero, talked to him, and I straight up asked him, I was like, do you feel like you're as strong now as you were when you stopped playing Splatoon 2 about a year or so ago? And he straight up said, no, I'm not ready. I'm not where I want to be. So that's like, okay, there's still a lot of room to grow there. We didn't talk to Sun, but I'm assuming there's the same kind of situation with Sun as well on that team. And obviously they got all the right pieces. I've been hyping up .Q pretty much the entire weekend. And then the games they won against Big, it was because Zero and Jared were getting the job done from the Slayer side. They were winning their fights. Their KAs were massively higher than what they were in the 2 games they lost. You guys don't get to see it, so just trust me. I took screenshots of all of them. But when their KAs were higher, .Q's KAs were really high, and her deaths were non-existent. So that's good, and there's a lot to build off with Sayonara. I just think they need more time in the oven. The only real practice other than scrims, like actual tournament experience they got into this, was just SOS, which there's not usually anybody of Sayonara's caliber that plays in SOS, so they don't really get to get that tournament experience against true monsters. But that shows like, okay, there's a lot of room to grow here. So I wouldn't be too like concerned about Sayonara, but they're clearly not there yet. But that doesn't mean they won't be later on. And we'll get a good test for that this weekend. Your mom, I owe your moms an apology. I looked at your mom and I thought, this is the team that everybody's going to be gunning for. This is my plus server results, which looking at the purge, a lot of people probably desperately needed to beat your mom to stay in there. But I think a lot of people said, well, Cherry Lime beat these guys, essentially the same roster at Shine. We can beat them too. And the Ace, Rizza, Steffi team, I always forget who the fourth is on that one. They did beat them. And I was like, okay, there you go. But then your mom got revenge on them and made a deep run all the way through Redemption, through Showdown, into top 8. It almost beat Chara's team Scam in a game 5. Fusion, thank you. Oh, man, I should have known that one. But your mom improved a lot over the course of the day. Now, it's just a pickup, and those players are going to go off to their own teams. Dude announcing a new team that he's going to be on for there. But it still showed a team that I thought was way vulnerable and didn't have their top 8 spot secured, that really grew over the course of Saturday and became a strong team. So my bad. You guys were a lot stronger than I thought you would be. Big. Let's talk about Big, the pickup team. Keo, Leotos, Leafy, and Henry. I think even though Big did not win this tournament and they finished second place, I feel like this is a legacy defining kind of tournament for these players in particular. Leotos, the best LAN that player's ever had. But the other players, Henry, Leafy, and Keo, it justified where their standing in competitive Splatoon is. And I look at Keo in particular, and I get this sense that any team that's going to have Keo on it going forward, regardless of if it's an actual team, which it looks like they're going to be forming, or a pickup or whatever, any team that has Keo straight up has an opportunity to win the tournament. It doesn't matter who's playing in it or what they're going to be going up against. Keo is, and this is a wild comparison, Keo is the LeBron James of competitive Splatoon. Any team you put Keo on, their energy level goes up. Everybody's confidence appears to be going up, and just makes everyone around them better. So that was I wasn't surprised that they beat Sayonara in that scenario that they did, but that was where I was like, okay, Keo is like Mount Rushmore now after that kind of performance. That solidified it. Even though they didn't win the tournament, to me, that solidified it. I'm really interested in Last Resort now. I'm watching Scam play with Chara. And I think I said this wrong. Is it Arishi? I don't have it right in front of me, so I might have just said it wrong again. But those two players are playing for Last Resort, and they played in this pickup Scam and did really well, being the only team to take a game off of Starburst, if you guys care about that. Ooh, they took a game off of somebody. But when I tweeted out that Starburst was untouchable, Chara was like, well, that just means everybody else has to grind. And I think Keo was running like, what teams are you even talking about? But Last Resort is a team, and you know they are going to be grinding. Arishi, thank you. You know that team's going to be grinding, and you can see some pieces here with what those two players did with Scam in this tournament to what they could possibly be with Last Resort. I'm not sitting here saying they're going to beat Sayonara or Starburst. I'm saying, do you see some potential there? You definitely see some potential there for them being one of those upper echelon, top level kind of teams. The team that won it, though, Starburst, it's just too much. They're just too much right now. At PAX West, they looked really vulnerable. It looked like they didn't beat Jackpot. It looked like they survived Jackpot. And then got beat pretty good in a show match later that weekend by Jackpot. But now Starburst, what they showed you here, I think the key difference is, and I would have said this on the Analyst Desk if that segment didn't get cut, the key difference between PAX West Starburst and who they are right now is that Ice is not using Splatlings anymore. They're back on Charger. And that is something we haven't seen players like Ice and Power do in a long time, which is use that traditional Charger anchor role. But we saw Ice in one of those games where, one of those Splat Zones games, I believe game 2, Ice went 5-0. And that is when your anchor player is not dying ever and are getting splats in return, that sets up the door for your whole team. And I'm not sitting here saying Ice was bad at PAX West or anything like that, but now that they have the Charger back and they have an identity back, I think that's just what separates Starburst from who they were at the beginning of the month to where they are now. And I think it puts them back on that pedestal of untouchable. And I truly believe that. I mean, look, we sat there and watched the same thing. Sayonara 3-0, big 3-0, and we could sit here and say, oh, they were close. They were close. They almost took a game off them. I'm not going to sit here and patronize these top-level players by saying, oh, you guys almost took a game off of Starburst. Congratulations. Yeah, we all have a I almost got them story, but what we don't have is a I beat them story. And nobody, aside from Scam, I believe in a Clam Blitz game, has a I beat you story against Starburst. And when we brought Bran on, I was like, is there anyone in this tournament that you're concerned about? And Bran was just like, no, we're not concerned about any one of these teams. And I think it's time let's wait and see what happens this weekend. But I would be surprised if the winner of 20XX, the best team outside of North America and Europe of 20XX, isn't Starburst. And if they lose, that will be newsworthy. They're at that point right now where FT-Win was for so long in Splatoon 2, where they were just untouchable. And if you beat them in winners bracket, you're going to get an angry Hornet coming at you in losers finals and in the losers bracket, and they're going to end up winning grand finals anyway, so it doesn't really matter. That's where Starburst is right now. And until somebody beats them, there's no reason to believe they're not going to be up there. Now, there's a lot of new teams forming. A lot of exciting things, and that's why 20XX is going to be an exciting tournament this upcoming weekend. Keo, Goss, and Bursty are looking for an anchor player. I don't know what Leafy is up to, but if that player makes a new team, there's another contender for that like second place spot. But that's really, in all honesty, that is what everybody's competing for right now, is second place. And Sayonara is, or not Sayonara, the Starburst is just, can we beat Japan? Can we beat the Kings? That's really what the focus is right now. And that's where my thought is like, how far away are they from, well, I guess we need to see how far away from them from winning a single game in World Cup, but like how far away are they from potentially winning, like being a world champion? Because that's what their next goal for them is. They shouldn't be worried about Sayonara. They shouldn't be worried about Kyo's new pickup, even though they should. They shouldn't be worried about Alliance Rogue, in my opinion. We just saw too much. They went way too hard and were so chill about it. You had Big and Sayonara jawing at each other, screaming at each other after every single game, and it was all friendly and competitive, but you could tell there was a lot of intensity in that set. And then Starburst just went on, and they were just robots. 3-0. Okay, Sayonara, here's our 3-0. Bye. Oh, Big. Okay, here's our 3-0. Bye. We won the tournament. Cool. Yay. Like they seem like they didn't really care, just from the outsider's perspective. That's how confident they were, and that's scary for the entire scene going forward. So buckle up. Unless some crazy things happens this weekend, it's Starburst versus Japan, and the rest of the West trying to play catch up. I hope somebody can catch them. I think it's more exciting when there's parity at the top, but you can't sit here and honest to God tell me that you think there's parity going on right now with how untouchable Starburst was. At least at a LAN setting. Who knows? Maybe you'll play them in a tournament and they'll get a communication error DC. That happens to me in every single decisive game of my series. After I win game 5, I get a DC at the stat screen and lose it for somehow. Moving on. We'll get to Raise in a second, but now it is time for the weekly recap. Yes. SOS number 84 was won by Rising Wave in a great 4-3 win over Bet to Destroy X. I feel like Rising Wave has been playing with a chip on their shoulder the entire year, ever since they got placed in Div 3 back in November 13th, 2021, and felt like, no, we don't deserve to be down here, where we're going to make you realize that you made a mistake every single day for the rest of the year. And Rising Wave has been flexing in these weekly tournaments, basically from November on. Getting another nice win here against a strong Bet to Destroy X team. Salute finished in third place over Yamam, who used this tournament as a warm-up. Hammerhead was won by Espresso. Makeup Bracket was won by Inked. And Lantern Bracket was won by Calamari Sutre, a team name I have not said in a long time, but I remember those guys vaguely. Squid Junction number 30 was won by a Block. I hate it when team names are just some random ass emote. I think it's just Block is what they went by. It appeared to be a JP pickup. 501st finished in second place. That's confusing when you just read it out loud. And Bet to Destroy X finished in third overall. Shout outs to the team that had Pop Gun as a part of their name. Usually Pop Gun teams do absolutely horrible, but I think this Pop Gun team, who made it all the way to losers round 5, is the best Pop Gun themed team of all time. Congratulations. They lost to In Control Red Sun, but they did take a game off of them. That means something, right? Attaboy to them. 32 teams played in this tournament, and a whole heck of a lot more would have played in it if it wasn't for the fact that they hit the cap at 32. And this is something a lot of teams, TOs, are going to have to start thinking about as they're doing double elimination tournaments. When you get to 32 or below, stick with the double elim, but I think you're going to see a lot more teams or tournament organizers go, if we get 33 teams or above, we're just going to do a group format. Top 2 teams from each group move on to a top cut single elim. I think that's what we're going to see, because I hate seeing tournaments hit a limit and have to close when you don't know how high Squid Junction would have gone. Squid Junction could have had who knows how many teams. But if they find a way to get rid of that limit and switch the format to something like groups or something, this could be a monster thing. No, stop with the ladder. Stop it. Stop it with the ladder stuff. It also ran during Big House. I haven't seen a single person associated with the Splatoon side of Big House that cared. I could go on a rant about it. I'm not going to, but I can tell you this. I don't think any of the TOs really cared if a online tournament runs at the same time as a LAN. Hey, as long as eyeballs are on Splatoon, it's fine about it. It goes back into the mindset of, do we want to tell people you have to watch this event, you can't do anything else, you have to watch this tournament, or do we want to say, here's this option, here's this option? Let it know. Are we big enough to be doing that? Maybe, I don't know, but I just don't like it when we try to bully people off of Twitch or say, you can't stream your tournament or you can't play your tournament because we're going on right now, we're controlling everything. I don't like that kind of mindset. But as things get more competitive, we're going to see a whole lot more of that coming forward, unfortunately. The College Cephalopod Association is kicking off a new season this week, and there is some crazy stuff going on at the College Cephalopod Association. They have, as of when they closed registration, 60 college teams! 60! Remember when we had just had Purdue with 2 teams, and then, that was it, and, Triton Splatoon in San Diego had a thing. Now we got 60 college teams? What in the world is going on there? We're going to have to bring in some CCA folks onto this podcast when we get a chance to figure out what's going on. But there is a monster tournament of college teams going on. I believe a league format. We'll have some more information about that coming forward on the future episodes of the Popcast. The Steelers forgot that they are a professional football team and got destroyed by the Bills 38-3. The Rams can't score a doggone thing against the Cowboys, losing 22-10. The Chiefs and the Raiders play later tonight. I think I need Patrick Mahomes to not do well because I think I'm playing against them. It's one of those situations where my fantasy team is barely holding on to a lead. We'll see how that goes. And that was your weekly recap, sponsored by nobody. I'm not doing ads this week. Even though the weekly recap is fake sponsors, you guys have seen so much sponsors over the last couple of days. We don't need to do it anymore. So nobody, nothing, nada, the official sponsor of this week's episode of the weekly recap. Ugh. Also, I think I absolutely butchered one of my ad reads over the weekend, but I think it was one of those points where the audio was desynced. But I just remember, these words I'm reading out in my head make no sense to me, so I got a sense that I'm just, farting out words right now. So ad reads are definitely something I need to get better at as well. But that pizza was really good. That pizza was really good for sure. Oh, okay. Now, don't. And now Carrot showed me the studio mode thing, and I think this is going to work out unless it doesn't. So we'll transition and see what happens. Yes? Now how do I get back? There we go. Raze, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
It worked. Boom, we did it. So welcome into the Popcast. Head TO for Low Tide City, Riptide, Big House, IPL, and has more 9th place medals than what he knows what to do with. Raze.
You really just called me out like that, huh?
Hey, look, it's it's something to be proud of, 9th place is there's a lot of +3 players that would have loved to have a 9th place result at some extent before this weekend.
For this weekend, that would have been impressive.
How is morale now that Big House is over?
Still feeling good about the event overall. It's definitely in stark contrast to Riptide and how Splatoon 3 went at Riptide.
How the first tournament you ever played in, how did that go? What do you remember from that?
The first tournament I ever played in,
Yes.
it was the Hank Nintendo 10K tournament, and I think I played a single series
The
because
Hank.
my team. So there was a tournament in Splatoon 1, or a YouTuber specifically, Nintendo. He hit 10,000 subscribers. He ran a Splatoon tournament. Um, and then I didn't have a team, so I messaged him on Skype, and he put me on a team. And then they got beat in winner's side, went straight to losers. They let me play a series and then lost.
Does that loss still haunt you to this day?
Not really. I have a lot more losses that haunt me a lot more than that one.
fair, fair enough. Hey, you played long enough. Yeah, you build up those kind of losses, but you get a lot of wins as well. How did Splatoon end up at Big House? Like how did this, like when it got announced? I think it was a shock to a lot of people.
So, does anyone remember Squid House?
I
So
do. Yeah.
back, yeah. So back, like right as the pandemic was ramping up, there was uh, the issue with Slippy, where Nintendo was cracking down on the use of Slippy to run melee in real life tournaments. That was right around the time of a official Nintendo tournament for Splatoon. Everyone put free melee in their names. Then like Ludwig got involved after the Squid House got canceled, and we just went with it. Um, I can't say for certain in terms of what happened before I got there, because how a lot of these lands work is these organizers either talk amongst themselves and then reach out to like KBot, and then KBot directs them either to us as individual organizers, so in this case like me and Magic, or posts in the Splatlands TO server, and it's like who is available to run this. So a lot of that initial communication goes through him.
So the Squid House did actually play a major role in this thing. I like that was just kind of a rumor that it was a connection, but like you're saying that was kind of a key factor.
So I can't confirm it 100% because, like I said, I'm not a part of that initial communication, but I imagine that it did have some impact on the organizers wanting to have us. Um,
That's that is kind of interesting that I mean I understand that was a big event as far as like bridging the gap between competitive and Splatoon, those two communities as a whole. But yeah, I mean that connection's not really lost on us, the whole Squid House thing. um so I'm glad, obviously we're glad Splatoon was there. Did you do you know how the event went, like how the event went in the eyes of the Smash TOs? Like did they feel good about how it went?
Absolutely. They threw us off in a corner and we did everything the entire weekend. So Robin, the owner of the event, or I think he goes by like Jiggly Rob or Juggle Rob. I should know this. I just followed him on Twitter.
That's
um, was putting out fires all weekend. He didn't have to visit Splatoon once. The only time I talked to him was when I went to seek him out after the event to tell him we were done. Uh, Other than that, the next person who came was I think his handle is Supernac, uh, like the head of like competition or whatever. The only time he said he came over was to like dodge responsibilities for other things because he knew we were just running fine. Like at most, we never got more than like 30 minutes behind schedule. I don't think, at least on day one. And then I don't know much about day two, but um, they just threw us off of the corner and ran and got 100 more attendees than they normally get.
When I've seen you at Low Tide and Riptide, it seemed like you were genuinely unhappy most of the time. But when I saw you at Big House, not that I spent a lot of time, around you or anything, but when the times I did see you at Big House, you did seem genuinely happy. Like, was this way less stressful to run compared to the other ones?
Yes, and there were like two really big factors, I think, especially for LTC and Riptide. There were two big factors going into those lands that made it much more challenging to run. Um, For LTC, it was specifically Devin getting COVID 3 days before the tournament. So we didn't have him on site. So we were basically playing touch and go with K-Bot and then having Vincent run stream virtually, like through Devin.
Right.
That was a very stressful thing to have. And then also LTC was the first LAN I ran. So, and then Riptide, logistically, was everything. Everything we had, everything IPL had, everything Level 1 had, went into Riptide. So IPL purchased TM1s for Riptide, and then Level 1 brought all of their TM1s. The intent was originally to have TM1s at every stations, including the friendly stations, and then we got on site and realized the logistics just couldn't happen because we either didn't have enough cabling or the TM1s weren't working as intended, and we didn't have the time between figuring out technical issues between Splatoon 3 and then audio issues to make that happen. So just this scale, like scaling back those teams so we don't have that logistical point of failure, was a huge stress relief on me. And then also Splatoon 3 just ran this time. Like, we learned all our mistakes from Riptide, and then we came in with a smaller pool and people who also knew more, because like the top 4 or 5 teams had all played at LAN a bunch. You got like Chara, who's played at PAX, Kyo's played at PAX, Leafy's played at PAX, all of Arctic Moon has played at PAX, which makes it really easy to come in and just kind of run things.
And, you mentioned the production thing. Somebody asked what a TM1 is. The TM1 is it's like the team voice chat thing. So you'll plug your headphones into that so you can hear each other and the game audio. I have a question about the TM1s. I know a couple of them are IPLs. The IPL ones, were they used at all this weekend?
No. So Level 1 owns like 12. And because we were only running 4 stations, we only needed 8 on site, and they brought 2 backups. So IPLs didn't need to get used. Also, officially, IPL didn't really touch Big House. Like, me and Magic are a part of IPL, but weren't like contracted through it necessarily.
Right. Do you know if those TM1s are that were used? Those are like the same exact ones that have been used at like every LAN for the past couple of years, right? Mm-hmm. So they're just like being flown from across the country and just being used. That's it. Like, were there any issues? Were there any issues at all with equipment at this event?
Not really. From an operations side, there wasn't, because we had enough extra where if a player was having trouble, we could literally just unplug it, plug something new in, and plug it and say, does it work? And then it worked, and we moved on. It's like, again, that's the nice thing about having a slightly smaller event with slightly more experienced teams. If we had a problem with our TM1, stands for tournament mixer, we can just unplug everything from it, pick it up, move it to the side, put a new one in, plug it in, and say go. Because we had those extras, because we didn't have as many teams signed up.
Right. So you didn't have to have that, like that little fake friendly table that we had in the corner of Riptide where we just kept poaching equipment from. With I think what people who haven't been in a LAN don't really understand is the amount of equipment that goes into just running one station. Like, if you walk through a Smash Brothers side, you need a GameCube, you need an old ass television set, and you need controllers and a copy of the game. I could run a Smash tournament in my living room right now. To run like a Splatoon LAN, you need all of that stuff times 8, plus connectors and the TM1s and like the Ethernet switches and all that stuff and your own headsets. And that's just for one game that you can run at a time. I think people don't realize that.
Yeah, so to put it in perspective, for the amount of equipment we need, we have 21 things we need to plug in to power for a single station. That's what we need to have on site before teams. That's not including switches, controllers, headsets, anything like that. That is all like there's 8 monitors, 2 TM1s, 8 Nintendo switches, 2 network switches, a network router to actually run the game through. Like there's a lot of stuff that needs to get plugged in, and there's just a lot of stuff that needs to get put on a table for Splatoon. Like when I think when the big house first saw our list, they're like, that's for everything, right? And we were like, no, because we set it up as we need 8 monitors, we need 8 docks, we need 8 Ethernet. Like we itemized it like that, and we said no, that's for one station. Like, well, how many stations are you gonna need? Probably like 4. Like, oh, and then like we ended up doing a lot of the legwork on that, where we reached out to like the equipment rental companies. And said, hey, what is this going to run us? And they actually, it was cheaper than I expected, but still probably much more expensive than running a lot of Smash setups.
Yeah, I find that hilarious that they even realized that was a massive thing. But again, the world they come from, they're not used to a station looking like a battleship. It just looks like somebody's living room from the 90s. If so, just kind of looking at the space that was there in general, let's say twice the number of teams played in this tournament than what actually did. What would that had looked like? Would they have found ways to put more stations in there? Would the format have just changed? Did people get knocked out quicker? Like how would that work?
So logistically, that's a conversation that I go have with Supernac. And then we say, look, we have like 200 people signed up. We cannot run this on 4 stations. Or if we are running it on 4 stations, we're going to have to cut a lot of teams really fast. And that was one of the first call we had about like the vision of the tournament was like, Big House is built for the O tours and the 2 tours. So basically, people who aren't going to run far in tournament, Big House wants to be for them. That's why it looked almost like a convention. They had a bunch of those tabletop games behind the TO desk. There's chess.com had a booth that they sponsored
yeah.
with a bunch of chess boards and stuff set up. Me and Magic went and played on those on Sunday, which was fun. And the way we do that generally for Splatoon is with our format. So if we have to change our format, that kind of ruins the point. So I think they would have found space for us to have to accommodate that larger number of people.
That's a good point. I didn't even think about why there's all that extra stuff there. It's because like 1,000 people are eliminated from the tournament in a couple of hours and they need something to do. I didn't think about that from the Smash side. So the format itself or the tournament itself, Splatoon side, a lot of new things were tried. I was curious if you got some feedback on some stuff. First off, the waterfall format, how did that work out? Like, did it actually work out the way you were expecting, I guess?
Yes and no. It basically ran it as intended. The problem was it was a lot more grueling than we expected. And call it a lack of foresight if you want. But when we were kind of making it up, we're like, one of the things is we wanted this to be a little more competitive, so we didn't really want to run a bronze bracket, but we didn't also want to eliminate people really early. So instead of like running the bronze bracket, what we're like is, well, let's just put everyone in bronze and then have people qualify out. In theory, that was a good idea, but we didn't really have enough time to execute it. I probably wouldn't do it again unless we had a third day or we changed how our first day was going to work. Because that's something hindsight 2020 that I realized is that I actually tweeted on Friday night. I got back to the hotel. I was like, wait a second. We could have ran all of our pools of 3 basically at the same time and cut 2 hours off our tournament, which would have made Saturday a lot more comfortable.
You're talking about those groups of 3, letting them play in one wave. Yeah.
Because how it ended up working out for the people who weren't paying attention is Big House had 21 teams, which is a kind of awkward number, but we ended up settling it by doing like 3 waves of 7 teams, a group of 3 and a group of 4, because they would take the same amount of rounds to run, but they would just only have one team playing or one match playing at a time instead of 2 matches. Well, we had 4 stations, so we would have had we could have run all of the groups of 3 all together and then run the pools of 4 and then probably shaved off 2 hours.
That's well. Did you ever have like another aha moment during like low tide or riptide that you did implement at your next LAN?
Um, the aha moment. So the aha moment at Riptide was realizing that having the power on top of the table was causing a lot of our audio issues,
Oh,
and I
okay.
implemented it Big House. I told Magic we were setting thing up. If the court doesn't reach to the floor, we need to find a way for it to reach to the floor. Otherwise, we're gonna have a lot more audio issues because that was something. So Pace Cat was at Riptide, who has a lot of experience from these events, and that was something that he said, "Hey, look, here's something that you want to try in the future because this is kind of a reason that you're having a lot of stress here, and it's also something I think K-Bots mentioned." Um, and then we implemented it here, and we did have a lot less audio issues. So it's call it anecdotal for now, but it seems to work.
That's I mean, I didn't recognize that. So, but yeah, that's, I didn't see anybody blow their ears out. So I guess that kind of makes sense this time around. Okay, so the new counterpick format, the whole strike through thing. It sucks that winners and grands finals, the counterpick didn't matter. You could play it on any map. The result's not going to change. But it did actually play a huge factor in losers finals because it went all the way to a game 5. How did you feel like the strike through thing worked?
So I really liked it. I liked it when we were testing it. I think it went well in tournament because the idea for it is generally counterpicking has like 2 minutes between each game, which is kind of unavoidable when counterpicking is a thing. So we're like, how do we get rid of that unavoidable counterpick time? And it's like, what if we just do the counterpicks before the set? Valorant also does a similar system where they, instead of like picking maps, they just remove maps. And so me and Magic, we both watch a fair bit of Valorant. So that we decided to adapt it more to Splatoon. So we got some teams to scrim it. We're like, all right, you're gonna help us. We give you a map list. You're gonna do our thing and then play it and then tell us how it felt, and then we're gonna change it and do it again. And so we ran it like 3 or 4 times and tweaked it a couple times and then brought it out at Big House.
It's I'm glad it was something new, and I wish there were more sets to where that it played a factor. It might have played a pretty decent factor in that best of 5 because it ultimately came to once Starburst had woken up or Sayonara had woken up and they were competitive with Big. The problem is game 5 was Clam Blitz, and it was, that's not one that's going to be favoring their play style versus Big, but because they burned through their other counter picks just to get to a game 5, it was too late. So I thought it was interesting, but again, I wish Starburst wasn't so good so that we could have seen it more in action there. Uh, Lastly, the analyst desk did obviously that didn't go as planned, but like what were your thoughts on that?
So the idea is really good. Um, I really liked it. I'm glad we did something there with it. I was supposed to be on it for most of the day Saturday,
You were,
actually.
yeah.
Uh, but it kept getting cut, and I wasn't going to push the envelope because I was the only person really missing out on anything. Like Vic had blocks on Friday, and Zach had blocks later in the tournament. So, and I wasn't dying to get on camera. I was dying to get on schedule, actually, because that's kind of my job, is to make sure the tournament runs on schedule. Um, so it was a little touch and go, especially at the end, because we kind of realized, oh wait, we can do this. Devin, do you have equipment to do these things? Kind of, but it's gonna be scuffed. Sure, that works. Like, um, because if you notice, we didn't actually have, like, we had the walking mics, the wireless mics,
Yeah.
and then it was my personal laptop on the analyst desk, like all Saturday,
Okay.
because
I thought we were just promoting HP all of a sudden with all the other ads
no.
we were doing.
So I'm kind of surprised they didn't like stick a post-it note on it
Mm,
or anything, because you think that would have been a problem, especially considering how much more BTS cares about sponsorship. Um, So yeah, I was kind of surprised that Devin was like, "Hey, do you have a post-it note or something, or like a piece of paper that I can tape over this?" Um, but yeah.
Do you would you like to see the analyst desk done at every land going forward, or does it have to require like a certain kind of scenario to where it makes sense?
So I would like to see more analyst desks in general. I think they add a lot to tournaments because it gives the chance for commentators to take a break without like bringing a stream down. That being said, there are some tournaments that probably don't need one. So, like, for example, I don't like right now, currently, LTC is a 2 day tournament. I don't know if we would be able to do an analyst test there because also it kind of depends on if we have the talent to do it. Because an analyst
Yeah.
desk is more specialized than like a commentary. Because as a commentator, you can just get on and do play by play and be fine. But for analysis, you have to be like well spoken and understand what's going on and be able to like pinpoint those places in time along a set to like communicate to the viewer. So it requires like a different set of talents that we as a Splatoon community just simply haven't scouted yet.
Yeah, and also the host role as well. Like you need somebody who knows how to ask questions, not just, "Oh, here's my list of questions. I'm going to read off the sheet of paper. What is your favorite weapon?" No, like how did you like you screwed up on this or like you did really well in this particular play? Like was it because of this or that or something? So like yeah, the host role is it's not just something anybody can do either. But I feel like the people who were on camera did the host role did a great job of that as well. Um, if Big forces a bracket reset, what happens? I'm just curious. Like, can you even say what happens?
I'm pretty sure I can. I don't know a
Okay.
reason why there wouldn't be. To give a little context for the viewers, at at the big house, the workers who work at the venue are unionized. Good for them. We like unions here. That's fine. The problem, their union only allows them to work until 10 p.m. So Devin, as contracted through Waveform, is not allowed to work past 10 p.m., which means we have to have everything production related cut off, not on, not powered, not touching at 10 p.m. So if Big resets Starburst, A, we don't get that VOD. It's not streamed on the internet. The
Oh,
projector has to get turned off, and we get fined.
so like we would just cut stream right there. You think?
Basically. So, like, the reset, so we end, like, it's going to reset, cut stream. And like the commentators just still have to sign off, and we have to pretend that the reset doesn't actually exist for the sake of ending stream.
Well, wow. I okay. Honestly, from the position I'm in, I would have loved to see that just because that would have been a fiasco, and I'm all for that. That was okay. That well, I mean, it makes sense that that would have happened. But yeah, that
Like Smash got a special exception on Sunday to run
yes,
to
yeah,
1050, and they still almost missed it.
that
They
is
ended at like 1049. Like
yeah,
they were seconds off like getting fined.
yeah, that is and again and that ultimate was another situation that wasn't a bracket reset. I think Riddles beat him in one. So yeah, pushing the envelope of the time. That's
Yeah.
again, it's not at at Riptide we got too much time on our hands, or like we're trying to come up with things to fill. It's just a different beast. So to wrap this up, you've done two lands in about a span of a month. Is it let me take some time and recollect myself and relax, or like how soon do you start jumping into whatever is next for you?
So it's probably like take a week and then figure out where to go from there. Um I couldn't have done the 2 lanes in 2 months if it weren't for the other staff that kind of realized what was going on, like Kraken and Vincent in Riptide, and even Devin at both events, and then like Magic at Big House. Magic took the lead on most, if not all, communication with actual Big House head staff. Which so basically, I came off Riptide. There's like 2 weeks to the event, and then it's me and Magic just shooting messages back and forth. Something else that also made it stressful was between Riptide and Big House, there was a family vacation I was on. So there was like a week in between Riptide and Big House where it was ping me, I will respond when I get the chance, and then we can call, but it has to be at like 11 p.m.
Fair
So
enough.
like, yeah, I absolutely couldn't have done it without the support staff. And like, I think Magic rose to meet the challenge of Big House extremely well, and I don't think that can be understated.
Yeah, and it probably helped out that Magic wasn't at Riptide too. So like you said, you could just focus on that, and then Magic could do the other things. So that yeah, that that kind of worked out. And again, it you did enjoy yourself this weekend, I'm assuming.
It was, yes, it was much lower stress this weekend because like it was even something during teardown. I was like, I commented to Devin, I'm like, wow, this is just like less stressful because with Splatoon done, we could just like watch Smash on the
Mm-hmm.
projectors as we're like unplugging Ethernet cables.
How did the chess match go?
Um, I think Magic won both of them because we ended up playing two, one where I played white, one where I played black. I think Magic played both of them, but I was like 2 moves off winning in both games, and he was like sweating. He was sweating bullets.
You know what? I lost to him in a game 5 in that Splatoon chess tournament because I blundered my queen for no reason, and I'm still upset
Yeah.
about it to this day. Hey, go ahead, plug yourself. And when is the next VOD analysis going to be?
So, you can find me on Twitter and Twitch at Raise_Splat, uh, Medify at RaiseSplat2, or I think it's just Raise if you want Medify coaching. I don't know when the next VOD analysis is. I've been wanting to do them, but the problem with Splatoon 3 is people still haven't really gotten their feet under them. So like I watched Area Cup on my own time, and it was just so boring. Like I might go back and watch losers finals for Big House specifically when they come out, and look at them much more seriously. But we're gonna have to wait on the VODs. Um, I've heard from Devin. I think he hopes to get them out in like a week or two, but there's no firm timeline on that and no promises to be made. Just
Well,
that's
hey,
the hope.
don't worry about it. Take some time. Go relax. You've done a lot for the community in the past month or so, or a lot longer than that as well. So why don't you just chill out for a little bit and catch up? Hey, and thank you for making time to come on. That was some insightful stuff that you said there. So thank you again for coming on.
It has been an absolute pleasure. Thank you for having me.
And that is Ray's head TO for 3 different lands this year. That was really, I like how he was talking about the Smash TOs didn't even realize the setup. Like, no, like we need all this equipment, all these monitors, all these docks and cables and all this stuff for one setup. And like it's eye opening for a lot of people to realize how difficult it is to do a Splatoon LAN, and why people are like, well, when are we getting a Splatoon LAN in Montana? And it's like, when are you going to fly all those TM1s out there? Like, those stuff ain't cheap. So really good chat with Rays there, and I'm glad I was able to get Rays on because he's gained a ton of experience with land stuff this year. I'm probably going to do a 20XX preview episode of the podcast on Friday and then recap it all on Monday. Yes, it's a Dapples event. Don't care. This is going to be a great showcase for a lot of new high level teams in this event. So I'm going to be covering it, and we're going to be watching it and talking about it on Monday. If you'd like to be a part of the podcast in any way, feel free to reach out to me on my socials below: Twitter at Mr_Popgun, Discord Popgun, hashtag 5882, YouTube at 25Popgun, Twitch at Popgun25, Anchor.fm/Popgun. Where are we going raid wise? We have not done... I can't raid myself. I'm closing down the stream. Let's go back to Becca. We haven't done that in a while. Hey, somebody has gotten COVID from Big House. I'm not saying that it's happened. I'm just saying we all know it's going to happen. So go ahead and get tested. You don't have to wait for the tweet to come out. Get tested, get vaccinated, stay safe. We'll see you next Friday.